What's up guys, welcome back to another Cypher setups video, and these are my favorite setups for 2022. I will update these in the future if there's new maps or if I start liking way other setups, and yeah, don't worry, I will make updates. The reason I haven't made many update videos is because the maps don't change and you have the best Cypher setup, well, the Cypher setups that I've shown in the past. And I've done some improvements to the old ones, so that's why we have a new update here. And keep in mind, like, I've spent like 200 hours on average per map in customs, 100 to 200, and there are only so many setups that you do, unless you want meme setups where you just get farmed, and you know, I don't like to troll you guys, so that's why I don't give you these weird ones, or that's why, yeah, give you the best, and that's all there is after that. So without further ado, let's get right into it. We're starting with Ascent, and then we go through all the maps and all bomb sites. I will also do more setups, not setups, but I will do more guides in the future as well, with how you attack, how you retake, and lots of other things. And yeah, stay tuned for it. Also, friendly reminder, I stream on Twitch, so if you are new here, head over to twitch.tv/cozypeak and you'll find more. And if you have any questions, feel free to send them in chat and I'll do my best to answer. But yeah, let's get right into it. Starting with Ascent A site. Normally I do that camera up there, a tripwire here, that's a very nice tripwire, and then tripwire there, that stops jet players, for example, if the first one is destroyed but they dash to a generator. Then we do a one-way, and you want to follow these arrows there, that's how I line up, and you will see these throughout the video. Another cage there, it's in order for us to be protected when we go on site. And you take this position, and yeah, you just shoot when you see the enemies in the camera, activate this if they push through, and you can adapt your position. You can play underneath here and wait enemies in. And then a different setup, when you don't use a one-way, you just put it on the ground, and that's totally fine. You don't need any 6 setups all the time. And this does the job perfectly. Now if enemies come if they go forward or if they come from the other side, you can just activate there and now you shoot them. Here's a slightly different version. You place a lower camera like that, and then you can see a bit more into garden, but you can't see as much as before into A main. That's not a problem. You go for the same lineup here with the one-way, and then you go in here. Place yourself in the corner, aim with the arrow, well, line up like I do there, and yeah, just send it out. Make sure that you also place a tripwire, because you want to be alerted if enemies go in here and you're not in the camera. And yeah, they can't go underneath it, they can jump over it unless they are jet, omen, etc. And they have to break it or trigger it. So when you see their legs, you can activate the smoke, but also make sure that you don't position yourself open in A main. Anyways, enemies, they can't see underneath here if you're standing on, well, in the main area on the A site. So enemies A main, bam, activate it, shoot. If they're not here, or in case they are there but you want to shoot for garden, that's how you do it. Very nice. Next one, in case you're not allowed to play in A or you just want to switch up, I go for this camera, and you want to see into A short like that. And this is because we're going to do a tricky one-way. So we place a tripwire like that, then we position ourselves in the corner and make sure that you also line up like I do here. Because otherwise it won't really work, but you have a lot of leeway here with this one. So yeah, you send it out. A tripwire main, because what if enemies come through A main? And then a cage on the ground, because you're not gonna be positioned for A main. So this is what it looks like when enemies are moving forward. They can't really move in without you seeing their legs, and they can't see the camera. That's a good part. And yeah, when you see them, you activate the smoke, and then you pop around the corner, and they can't see you unless you stand in the stairs. So yeah, pop the smoke, and if you're on the grass, now you can see them and you can shoot them. If they come A main, activate the cage, and then adapt to whatever happens. Now for B site. You've seen me do this setup before, and yeah, camera goes there, place yourself in the corner, again, line up like I do, otherwise it doesn't really work. Make sure to also crouch with this one. The lineup, well, the smoke should land like that, and then we have a second smoke for market. Tripwire for market here, in case enemies move through, and another tripwire there in B main. And you want to position yourself in the stairs, otherwise it's going to be very difficult for you to see enemies. And this way, when you activate the cage, if they're in the cage, you'll see them and they can't see you. Then for B main, Once you see enemies moving in, activate cage and you shoot underneath here. And they can't really see you, but if they stand far back, they can, they can maybe see your feet a bit. Then a second setup here, we keep the camera, but the tripwire goes like that and one more there. And make sure that you place the cage a bit far forward here because you want to hide the outlines of the, well, not outlines, but you want to hide the edges of the tripwire in case anyone gets triggered and they will struggle with destroying it. So enemies walk in, they walk into the smoke and you just shoot. And then if enemies walk into the bolt thingy for the switch, you just wallbang. If they walk into the nook here or cranny, whatever you want to call it, bam, you can shoot them there as well. If they come from market, you can shoot them there as well. There's a few alternatives with the second smoke. You can place it here, and I use this sometimes to distract enemies and make them move either to lane or into the switch, and they have to think a bit faster. Or you can place it on the roof there by bouncing it. Very easy lineup. So if the enemies are trying to counter you, you have another one-way. Then for mid, place the camera here. There's many different setups here, but I like to do this one. It's pretty simple. And tripwire like that, bam, smoke, hide the edges, because if someone gets triggered, they can't really destroy it easily. And make sure that you can activate the smoke with your camera as well, because otherwise you have to activate it manually. And then you just wallbang enemies. You could place the smoke further up, closer to you, but that makes it more difficult. And if you're facing a race player or something that destroys the tripwire, you can place it further up, but you have to place it further away as well, which means that your camera won't be able to activate the smokes if you want to hide the edges. So you have to activate them manually, but that's no big deal. Then for bind, we're starting with A site. I like to do this tripwire here in the corner, stops very many rushes, jet players, race players, etc. Then a smoke and the camera. And for the second tripwire, you can place it pretty much anywhere, but keep in mind that if you place it with a lineup I have here, it will be seen by enemies when they climb up on the box. So I don't do that anymore since the map changed. And instead I go for this one here. And I add another smoke to make enemies have to move into that tripwire or have to just take a risk and go through the smoke. So if enemies come in, bam, that smoke there covers a lot of area and just hides their vision, and then on this one here in case they push. And then another version, in case you have enemies coming to B, you can activate this smoke to be safe. I like to do to be safe, and then shoot the dart and bam, now you kill enemies walking into hookah. Keep in mind you need a teammate that tells you, oh, they're coming hookah. So yeah, you can do a dead trapwire. Here's a different variation, and then make sure that you line up like I do, because this is a very complicated one-way. Bind has the most complicated one-ways, and that's why I limit them. So yeah, one way on the teleporter, enemies coming in, bam. Now you see underneath. And we go for this tripwire because we want to trigger enemies when we want enemies to trigger it when they are moving in. And then we have the same smoke here with the same tripwire if they are pushing us. And next one for Bath. Normally, I don't really trapwire on Bath because I want to go for a dual setup, and instead I use these trapwires for my teammates that are playing on site. It's also very good for me if I have enemies coming A short but no one on bathroom. So you place the camera like this, enemies walk in, bam, you're on the corner and you headshot them. And that's pretty much all there is to it. You don't want to go for any tripwires or anything because you don't need them, and enemies will be able to hear them and see them before you place them and they turn invisible. So enemies coming from A short, you activate smokes, they walk into your trapwires, bam, you kill them. Pretty simple and fast. Next for B site, I like to go for one way here, line up like that. Then for the tripwire, we place it like this so that we block off the entry if enemies walk in, a cage, and then another tripwire here. And the cage there is in order to just block them off, but also distract them a bit, make them have to think faster. So enemies walk in. Keep in mind, this camera is very necessary because you can see them when they walk in. You shoot through the smoke a bit. You don't need to commit to it. You fall back. They push through, either destroy the tripwire or trigger it, and that's when you activate the smoke and shoot them, and they can't see you. They will try to kill you though, but usually you'll get 1 or 2 kills, and either escape or they kill you. So for the second setup, camera goes in the roof, same trapwire, cage on the window, and then another trapwire here and a cage here. And then we want to stand on top of the box and we want to look into the doorway towards Hookah here, because we can find a headshot spot and kill enemies very fast and easily, while they need to do many checks in order to clear Hookah. But keep in mind, enemies coming from long will be able to kill you very easily if you don't have anyone covering for you, so you want a teammate there in the corner. For the second setup, camera goes here, and this is my, sand trap setup. Like to do this a lot. The second trapwire is very good against jet players, because they dash into they dash towards the box, and the same with race players. So make sure that you set it up like that if you face those, because otherwise you might miss them. When enemies come in, you activate cages before they trigger the trapwires, because otherwise it's going to be easy for them to spot them. And the cages help protect your trapwires and hide them. For the third setup, we go for a camera up here. And we'll just place it there. Make sure that we get full vision. And then for the trapwires, place them on the sand and make sure that they cover like this, because otherwise they might be a bit short, or they might not cover the full area. So trapwires like that, Raise bot can clear them, but it's whatever. Smokes, bam bam, and now you sit in the tube and you're protected from nades, and enemies walk in, activate cage, you can wallbang, you can enter the cage, you can challenge. And the same goes for the other side if they come from window. Keep in mind that if they walk on top of the box, you have to adapt. But it's a bit more tricky for the enemies if they walk on top of the box, because they can't know where you are. For A site, we go up the rope here and then we set up a tripwire in hallway. We do this before the shields go down, because otherwise we don't have time. A camera goes up here to the corner and then a tripwire by the water. You can also place it higher up, but I like to start with low tripwire if there's no raise or anything breaking it. Then a one-way smoke for mid if they come mid. You activate it when they come in there. You can see their head or their body in between the railing and the ending of the smoke. Then you have a smoke here for when enemies are coming A main, and that's it. Here are some alternative cameras for A site, and these cameras depend on the playstyle. So for example, some are more aggressive like this one. You can see deep into A, deep into mid, and if you like to take duels, these can be very fun and they can be very good. Then you have a bit more defensive alternative cameras like this one, where you let enemies walk in a bit and you have more control of the situation once they're on site. Here's a new camera I found out. You jump up here, you also aim up there, and now you jump and place it on the pipe in the back, and you can see deep into cave and some site, and also the corner there. Very good. Then for B site, we have wallbang setups that are very new, and I love doing wallbang setups because enemies don't really expect them all the time. So you set up a camera there, a tripwire here, and this tripwire blocks default plants. So enemies running into plant default, you're gonna get tripped here. And if you want to place it a bit higher, you can do that. Here, this one is for when enemies come through B main into the corner, and that's in order to protect you. And these two smokes are very nice for when, enemies are coming in. So let's say that enemies walk in, they go to the site like this, over there to plant. And what you have to do is just shoot them through the wall. And if you want to, you can also activate the smoke so that they walk into the tripwire, much more easier. Then if they go to the side, over there, you activate the smoke, because now enemies will see you very quickly if you try to shoot them. So activate the smoke and then shoot through the smoke, spam it. And then if they go to the side, to mid, well, now you just take default positions like when you're dueling people. You can also wallbang. And then there's a very nice addition to the backside here. When enemies are coming from B main or mid and they threaten your position there, you can go back here. And you'll be super safe in here. You have direct access to B main and also B tunnels. So no hard position at all to play, and enemies can't even expect you. However, if you position here in the beginning, they might shoot you, but as you can see, bullets go straight through. Here are some alternative cameras, depending on the playstyle, like on A site. You have a lot more options now, thanks to the wall here. And you can see deep into B main. This one is, for example, very good post plant. Then an easier version of the tree camera that I've shown before, where you see deep into B main, like when you want early information. It's not as necessary to do this one now because you have much more protection, so you can take more calculated fights, I mean. And another one for when enemies are going into B main. Here's one different from the one we used in the beginning here. And that's all. On to fracture, we start with a camera here on the A side. Make sure that you can see into A main, but also up here. Then for the trapwire, you want to do this one specifically because enemies can't jump over that and they can't crouch under it as well. And that's pretty much the only spot here in ramp where you can place it with that guarantee. Then another tripwire like that, and with cage over the top here, because that's a one-way. And the second cage, as long as you smoke on the top of drop, that's all good. And when enemies are coming through A main, you activate the cage and it's a one-way. If they come through drop, bam, you activate the cage and now you have to push the smoke. A second setup, we set the same tripwire, and then instead of going for the camera up there, we save the camera, tripwire here, like normal, cage on the ground, not a one-way, and yeah, cage on drop, you can place it pretty much anywhere you see up, just lob it there. And now the camera goes here. And it's very important that the camera can see drop and A main, and we want to go for wallbang setup. And you activate the cage once you hear enemies or you see their gun barrels moving up. If you want to be a bit more safe with drop in case you don't care about the other tripwire, you can place it like that. For B side, camera goes here, you want to see E main and arcade. And you can see them at the same time, so you don't have to move your camera. It's a very strong camera. For the trapwire, we go for a trapwire here on arcade. If you're very careful with the placement, you can go for a very nasty one like that. And then one up in B tower, cage here. We don't cage the other one because we're gonna play in B tower, so we don't need a cage there. And instead, we use the cage to adapt on the fly in case we need it later. So when enemies are coming in, you duel them or you can wait. If they're coming B main, you turn over and you kill them. For the second setup, the camera goes up in the tree, or you can have the other one, but with this one in the tree, you have a bit more greater vision that helps you as well. In case enemies are coming arcade, but you can't really fight them because we're gonna position differently. So the same setup like I do here, but position over here in spawn. And that's the reason we have the camera in the tree and not over there by the left, because we want to challenge here to the right, and we can't do that if the camera is shut down. For Haven, go for A side camera here, you can go for that one, you can go for this one, there's many different cameras you can go for, but I typically go with this one because enemies are gonna be very easy to spot and they have to look straight up in order to destroy it. But normally, if I play alone, or let's say I play in the first couple of rounds on Haven A side, I like to do a camera where I place it very aggressively on long, and that's in order to get early information. For the tripwires like that on the ramp, you can place them pretty much anywhere. The variation is very important here because there's not much room for strong tripwires. So I start with that one, cage like that, and you want to hide the edges as good as possible. It's not super important, but it's very nice. That's the camera I was talking about, by the way. You want to see if enemies are crossing or not, and if they're crossing, you can duel them, or you can run over to window. And make sure that you tap the camera, you jump and tap the camera, and then tap out, so that you keep them moving, but also can scout. And that way, when they're coming in, you activate the cage, shoot, or yeah, you can rotate if they're not coming. For B side, go with this setup, cage like that, and then a specific cage like this. You follow the line up here, bam, and now you stand on the box. Camera goes up here, and this is specifically done so that you can see over the cages. So when enemies are coming in, you activate that one. Maybe they destroy the trapwire, maybe they don't, but this one is the specific one. If they walk in here, you shoot them. Then we have a tripwire for, well, this is for C side. So tripwires like that, cage like that, and then a camera that can go far up, it can go far to the right, far to the left. A lot of variations here. Sometimes I like to do the left one, and you can see very deep, you can hear if enemies are taking the orb. Or if you want to be safe, you can take this one. That's very good versus garage. And the second setup here, this one tripwire like that, and a tripwire in main. And this is more for when you're needing more on C site, but you're playing alone on C site, and you have very good defense on garage. Camera in the back, because you want to see enemies as they walk in. And once they're walking in, activate the cage, shoot, spam. And if they go through, activate the second cage like that. And now if they're coming on the left side, you can see with your camera. And it's a very difficult camera to spot. For Icebox A site, we have this normal camera spot. And there's not much fancy stuff with the tripwires or smokes. However, your position matters a lot on Icebox. So when I play here on A site, I like to activate the cages when enemies are walking in and then look above and clear these areas, because they are not going to push the cage, and even if they do, they have to deal with the tripwire. And then if you go on the other side, now you have all these new spots, especially this one, the headshot angle there. And if you want to play for that headshot angle even more, you can place the camera up here, and then you use the same tripwires, the same smokes, but you want to see enemies here. And you jump over, bam, bam, and then you chill here. You can crouch, you can chill, do whatever you want. Look in the camera, and when enemies pop up, you stand up, and now you shoot them. Super easy. For kitchen, we have the typical tripwire here. Very unbeatable tripwire. They have to basically walk very close to the edge to destroy it, or have to trigger it. Then camera here. Camera gets shot out if enemies are looking mid, but that's very good info for you. Any other camera works as well, as long as you can see enemies walking past kitchen there. Then a tripwire like that, and that's kitchen. Now to B site, these are new setups that I've made a short for, but here they are. And one is a wallbang setup, and the other one is a smoke setup. Both of them hold for the normal plant spots, and they are very strong. First one is the wallbang setup, and you go for the same tripwires, same smokes, and you play up in the box. And then if you want some variety, you can use the second one, and you play further back by the snowman. It's a bit more safer, but also a bit more restricted, since you can't shoot on the yellow side as well. Both of these setups use the same camera, and also only one cage to set up. So here you see me use only one cage, and then a second cage in case there's enemies on yellow or enemies coming through the smokes or destroy the trapwires. And this also means that if enemies don't come to your site, you can use the second cage to retake with. And if you ever need to re-smoke on this spot, you can just jump and lob it over, and that's it. Now for split A site, we want to stand in the corner and then aim towards that corner up there. And now you place the camera, you can see very far if enemies are rushing, and you can do this before the round even starts, which allows you to enter the camera and not make any noise. Now for the one way, we place it like this, bam, and make sure that you have a tripwire there, a tripwire on tower as well for the ramp, and that's, you know, good if enemies are rushing, cage like that. And now you sit in the camera. If they're coming A main, well, you activate the one way. They might trigger the tripwire, they might not, but you can spam through there and very easily get kills. If they come ramp, you just activate the cage and they shoot. For alternative cameras, I like to do this one, and that's pretty much it. Like, the other one is very good because of early info. Then for a second setup, we go with the camera here, and you want to see the enemy's feet as they walk up the ramp. Then a tripwire over here, and we combine this with a one way that we place over here. Then for the second tripwire, we want to make sure that enemies don't rush us in tower from mid, so place it here, or just in the middle here, in the whatever it's called when you go down there. And then up on the box, chill here, find a cover, and now you just wait for enemies to show up there. Activate the cage, and now you shoot. You don't need the one way, and this is good to do. Just a normal cage on the ground if you have teammates that are rotating from vents to A tower, because they will have to otherwise go underneath the one way and they might get killed. So what you can do instead is ping on the ground there, activate cage, and then shoot. And that's very easy for you since you get the info very early. For B site, we go with a camera up there, tripwire like that, cage on that spot, another tripwire here, slightly underneath so that you don't get both tripwires killed in one bullet, or well, two bullets. If enemies walk in, activate the cage, and now you look over it. And activate the second cage if they're pushing hard and look over that, or you can back out and just keep on shooting. For B site, when they come B main, I like to do this one, camera up here. This forces enemies to clear the camera by walking very deep into B main, and then a cage, tripwire like that, cage as one way, and a tripwire on the wood there, and that's very good for just players dashing in or just stopping any enemies rushing you. So you see enemies walk in, activate the cage, shoot underneath. Keep in mind that if they're very far back and they crouch, they can see you. So you can use this one to rotate over, or if that one wears off and yeah, just enemies walk in, you can use that to hide that tripwire. And this is a good alternative tripwire in case enemies figure out the other one, or if you don't face a race player. Then an alternative camera is this one, very good if the other one is often cleared out, and this one is very difficult to clear out. And that's all, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed these, and yeah, I will update these if there's enough setups that are updated, or I find improvements, or just new setups, new maps come out. And yeah, let me know what you think, let me know how it goes if you use them, and if you liked the video, hit the like button. If you disliked it, dislike it, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.